Good morning, everyone. How have you been? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Radwan. So, this morning we'll be discussing the Java roadmap. When we are talking about Java roadmap, that means for me to become a Java developer, what are the necessary things I need to learn? So, the core Java is part of what we need to learn and some other tools. What I now want to do is so that it will be added for you as an advantage. What I want to do is I will share all the necessary things that you need to learn, all the content, all the concepts that you need to learn in Java and the tools that are what being collected together for you to become a Java developer. So that's what I'm going to share with you this morning. Stay tuned. So let's go there. So let's start. So to be a Java developer, at least we must understand all these things. Okay. What happens is that I will just take you through some of these things. You see every necessary thing that you need to understand that will stand you out, including the final project. Now, after that, subsequently, I will be uploading videos on all these concepts. So you can stay tuned, you can subscribe, like, and share so that subsequently, once I upload anything related to that, you will see how to break them down. Nowadays, people do believe that Java is difficult, but I don't want you to be with that belief. Just stay away from that belief. It depends on who handle the course. So Java is very cool. You just have to ready to follow the syntax, the rule, the guideline. Put semicolon here, then put it now. Remove the comma here, then remove it now. You understand? So once you are ready to follow the rule, then there's no any problem. So, and I promise you, as time goes on, especially when you follow the course here, in fact, before you know it, you will fall in love completely with Java. Okay, so let's start. So introduction to Java, then with installation of IDE. The IDE we want to use here is IntelliJ. So although we have other IDEs that we can use to write Java code, just like Eclipse and NetBeans, but IntelliJ IDEA is very good and they use it very well in the industry. So Java component, JDK, that's Java Development Kit, Java Runtime Environment, JVM, Java Virtual Machine. What is the difference between them? What is the relationship between them? We see that. How does Java work? Main method. All the concepts here, those are the necessary things you have to learn as a Java developer. But here too in my channel, we are going to discuss all these things, including the last final project by God grace. Yeah, so let's go. So how does Java work? Main method, statically typed, dynamically typed, variable data type, typecasting, so many things. Loops, under loops, we talk about for loop, in nested for loop, while loop, nested while loop, do while loop, you see the difference between them. Scanner class and buffer reader. Now we move to object-oriented programming. Even in all other object-oriented programming language-oriented, OOP is very important. Now let's talk of Java that is purely object-oriented. So we know the difference between classes and objects. How do we create a class? How do you create the object of that class? Then instance variable, method overloading, wrapper classes, encapsulation, this keyword, static keyword, inheritance, package, polymorphism, all those things, abstraction, final keyword. Like this final keyword now, when we use final keyword with a variable, what will happen? We have to know that. When we use final keyword with a method, what will happen? When we use final keyword with a class, what will happen? So in my channel, you will see all the practical implementations of all these things. Big integer, big decimal. That is, there are some numbers that we'll not be able to use some of these primitive types to hold them again. At that point, we need something like big integer and big decimal to hold them. Array, we talk about array and different concepts under array. Strings and different concepts under strings, including string buffer and string builder. We know what we call mutable string and immutable string. Interface and lambda expression. These are part of Java 8 features. We discuss them and we know the difference of our interface like a normal interface, functional interface, marker interface. Exception handling. How do you handle exception? How do you work with a custom exception and the inbuilt exception? Multi-threading. So multi-threading, that is when we want to achieve concurrency utility. That is, we don't want a code to be waiting for another one before it to be executed. So we discussed that about that. And to implement multi-threading, you have to work with a thread class or runnable interface. How do we work with so many methods? What do we call synchronization? How do we work with that? We see that. Collection API and generics. Here we discuss a lot of things: array list, linked list, tree set, etc. like that, and map and hash map. So after that, we move to file landing. How do you create a file? How can you write content inside a file? How do you update the content that you have already created inside a file? How do you delete a file? Stream API, under Stream API, we discuss filter, map, and reduce. Then as a Java developer, it's very important for you to know at least one database. So especially when we are talking about relational database management system, RDBMS. So although we have many of them, MySQL is one of them, Oracle is there, SQL Server is there, Postgres is there, but we are working with MySQL. So under this database, under this MySQL, we work with some of these commands. You see their practical implementation. Everything different between primary key and foreign key, you see them. Then we have done Java, we have done database. Now, how do you connect Java to database? Beautiful. That is what we call Java Database Connectivity, JDBC. So how do you work with JDBC? What are the 7 steps involved? What do we call DAO? That's Data Access Object. How does class.phone work? All those things. Then we now move to Spring. What is Spring Framework? What is the importance of Spring Framework? What is different between Spring and Spring Boot? What do we call inversion of a control, IOC? What is a singleton design pattern, prototype? What do we call builder pattern? What do we call factory design pattern? Dependency injection. We don't want a class to be completely dependent on another. How do we work with that? How do we achieve that with a Spring and Spring Boot? Then JPA, Java Persistence API. There is a library that we call Hibernate, which is an ORM library. ORM is Object Relational Mapper. That is, we don't want to be writing raw SQL query here. So, and we still want to be able to persist our objects into the database, that we want to connect the Java objects and the database together. So, we don't want to write the raw SQL query. So, using Hibernate. Hibernate is one of the example of a library we can use. Of course, we have many of them. Spring MVC, that is Model View Controller. We are going to have some kind of introduction to Spring MVC. Model means your database. View means view, what you can see, like HTML, your front end. Controller means the place where we are going to write the logic, the code that will connect both the database and the front end together. Then sending data from UI to controller, we see different concepts under that. Then moving to Spring REST, what do we call JSON, JavaScript Object Notation? What is an example? Then how do we build a REST API with Spring Boot? Then how do you test that API with Postman? We see everything. So then when you build an application, you have to secure the application. The first thing is to build an application, another thing is to secure it. So securing application means we have to add authentication and authorization. Authentication is like, who are you? Do you have credential with us? You cannot just come to our application without you registering with us. So that's authentication. Then authorization is, okay, now you are here with us. Do you have access to all the pages? No, you only have access to here. You are permitted to visit this page. You are not permitted to visit here. Spring Aspect-Oriented Programming and the concept under that. Microservice architecture. Now, when we are talking about microservice architecture, what you are saying there is that we don't want an application to completely depend on one app. We want to achieve loosely coupled so that it will help us to build scalable applications. So microservice architecture is very, very good and very interesting. So working with so many things under microservice architecture, including resilience, forgiving for circuit breaker, working with API gateway, load balancing, Eureka service, that's Spring Cloud. So work with that. Then what are the other tools that we need to discuss? Like Postman, we use it to test API. Swagger for API documentation. Git, you must have idea about Git commands, how to use Git command to push your project into GitHub. You have a GitHub repository. Then project. Although apart from all these projects, in our own course, these are the things that we are going to do. But in our generally, you can build any type of project you want, but not like to-do list or whatever ahead, because that one is too easy. So make sure you build something that will stand you out. So just like all this, apart from this inventory management system, banking, employee, you can build other things, maybe like e-commerce, you can build hospital management, you can build any other type of very good project. Then finally, of course, you can deploy your project on AWS Elastic Beanstalk. On AWS, you have so many services. We have Elastic Beanstalk is there, EC2 instance is there, Elastic Cloud Computing, that's EC2 instance. So we have RDS, relational database is there. We have S3 bucket, simple storage service. We have VPS, virtual private service. We have around 53. We have so many services there, but Elastic Beanstalk is very good to deploy our project. So thank you, my guys. So thanks for watching. Now, subsequently, we now start the course fully from the installation of the IntelliJ IDEA. We now start writing the code line by line. You see how easy, how beautiful, and how interesting it is to work with Java. Okay, kindly subscribe, like, and share. Thank you. See you in the next video. Bye.